guys, I'm sorry that I haven't gotten that tutorial up that I promised. Been having a hard time deciding on what to do for a tutorial, but I think I finally have an idea. But anyway, I went out and I was doing some care package shopping for my sister in Oregon. She's been having a really rough time with everything going on with my nieces that I mentioned a few weeks ago when I did the anti-suicide day. But she's just having a really tough go, and she was telling me that she's out of her foundation and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm taking it upon myself to actually build her a makeup care package, and I'm going to try to get something to put all of it in for her. So in the midst of doing that, I've had one of these palettes before, and I decided, you know what, I want to pick up another one for myself, as well as get one for her and one for my nieces. Mainly my oldest niece. My youngest niece, she just likes to play with it. My oldest niece, she'll actually wear it. But anyway, I picked up, I think, 6 different palettes. They're all from Dollar Tree. Go figure. But my nieces and my sister, they like the inexpensive stuff too. So I just got them these little palettes here. These are the ones that I have unopened for her. The ones for my nieces are marked and already in a bag, so I can keep everything together. And I will get into showing you those really quick, and then I will jump into some swatch segments. But this is that top one. It is called Trendy, which, it has all the current kind of popular smoky eye, even though they're still kind of neutral and natural looking. They're not overly pigmented like, high-end cosmetics. They're perfect for a softer look, which is what my sister prefers. Here's another one in neutrals. This one's called Traditional. These are a lot lighter. This one, I got an extra one because I'm not sure if she'll want it or if she'll give it to my nieces to play with, but it's called Supernatural. It's just all shades of blues and teals. And down at the bottom, I know they look like grays, but they actually have slight bluish hues to them when you actually apply them. These 4 right down here in this bottom row. They're almost like slate versions of teals and blues. But all the same, they're really pretty. And for $1, you can't really beat it. And they actually came out pretty pigmented. So those she might give to my nieces. Then the next one, which is called Glamorous. This is the one that I've had before. I think it was either this one or Chic. They're kind of similar. This one has, like some purples. Ooh, almost dropped it. Some purples up here. Then it's got some kind of rose tone neutrals in the center. And then down at the bottom, it's got some warm tone neutrals. Then this one is called Urban. It's got, these greens up here. This one here makes me actually think of the color of lemonade, even though it does have a slight, very slight greenish tint. This one's kind of like a goldenrod yellow, but it's not overbearing. And some of these colors, they blend in with my skin tone, so when you see the swatches, you might see them, you might not, because they do blend in, but they are there. But again, it does have, kind of a teal and a couple purples. One's warmer toned, the other one is more cool toned. And this one is Chic, which is the one I think I had before. And you'll see what I mean when I say they're similar. They're not identical, but they are similar. This one has more warm tones to it than Glamorous. Glamorous is more cool toned. This one has more warm tones, but it still has that cool tone purple. All a buck a piece. They're actually really decent quality, especially if you don't want something, you know, that's going to be overpoweringly colorful, unless you get the Supernatural. That one's pretty vivid. It's pretty, but it's very vivid. So I will move on to swatches. I will talk to you guys here in just a second. And I just thought of a quick note before I get into the swatches here in just a second. Just grab one of these at random. I'm going to show you guys how I've swatched these because there are 12 colors per palette. I started over here on the left and I go from top to bottom, and then I'll get the next three. Then it'll move on to the next three and the next three, so on and so forth. That way you know how I swatch these, so you can kind of compare them to the palette. I'll actually have a picture of the palette before I go into the swatch themselves. But that just gives you an idea on the order I went in. I just followed the palette from left to right, and I did each column at a time. So I will get on with those swatches for you guys, and I'll see you guys at the end of the video. Bye for now. Alrighty, for starters, we're going to go into the Trendy palette, which is the Deep Neutrals. As you can tell, that first color over on the far left, you can't even see it. It just blends in with my skin. All you can see is just a tiny bit of sparkle. And as they go across the board, they're just very soft. They're not overpowering. So they're surprisingly subtle, but they would make nice transition colors. And also maybe for a light, not overpowering smoky eye. However, this next six, the six that are on the right side of the palette, they are actually a good bit more pigmented. They're a bit darker, but again, they're not super over the top. Those would be nice outer corner colors, maybe into the crease, along the lash line, etc. I think this palette's really pretty and it has a lot of potential, but they're not overbearing. Up next we have the Traditional palette. This one is the lighter of the two neutral shade palettes. As you can tell, that white, it actually stands out a little bit, but it almost blends in perfectly with my milky skin. The next color definitely almost blends in. It blends in even more. But as I said, these are just very subtle. They'd be nice for, you know, just adding just a tiniest bit of color to the eyes. Nothing that's going to be overstated for those that prefer something more simplistic. Here's the next six. They're slightly more pigmented, but not a whole lot. They're slightly deeper. They're all pretty warm toned. There's a couple that are more cool toned, but still overall it's mostly warm toned neutrals. And I can't say it enough. They're very, very subtly colored. They're not going to be overwhelming for those that do prefer the softer look. And again, they'd make an awesome transition color. Now we're into Supernatural. This is the one where I said the pigmentation was actually quite remarkable. Lots of blues. As you can tell, it does have that white, which would be nice for a little brow highlight. And it does seem like it has, you know, some blue toned grays. Maybe borderline taupish, if you will. But I absolutely just love these blues. Most of them are frosty. Some of them are more matte. But again, they're not excessive. These came out really pigmented, especially that fifth shadow, that bright blue that you see over toward the right. That sucker went on super brilliantly. It's easy to blend these out. These blended like a dream. They are just the tiniest bit powdery in all of these palettes, but it's nothing that can't be remedied with a little bit of blending, so no worries in that department. Now we have Glamorous, which is one of the two that I said I think I had before, but I think it wound up being Chic. This one is actually very, very subtle in the colors. And it's got some warm tones, it's got some cool tones. The white actually had a decent amount of pigment to it. The lavender's just barely there. And I really like this little soft tone pink, which is the second from the right. It's just very subtle, nothing overpowering, as I've said. These are just really awesome for those that like the more subdued look. Here's the last six, which again, they have more pigment to them. They show up a bit brighter, but not super blindingly bright. But they definitely could have some very, very beautiful looks made with these, especially if you're looking for something maybe for bridesmaids or even weddings. I think these would be absolutely astounding for weddings, and you can come off with any colors that you might possibly need with any of these palettes. Now we're moving into Urban. Pardon me. This is the one that has the whole myriad of the rainbow, so to speak. But these are very, very, very pale pigmented. That first six. So those would be more, you know, like toward the inner corner as maybe an inner corner highlight or a brow highlight. Or if you just want just a very, very light color, you don't want any drama whatsoever from your eyes. So those, they're very pale, but the blue is the most pigmented of those six. The next six are a little tiny, tiny, tiny bit more pigmented, but not a lot. I love the two purples. The white shows up a bit. Well, it's not even a white. It's just a really, really pale, kind of pinky lavender. But it does look more bluish there. It's the third one from the left. And as I said, the yellow, it's very subdued, yet you can still see it. And we're moving on into Chic. Actually, I do think it was Glamorous that I had. But anyway, you can see these are very soft. However, that kind of coppery shade really shows up, the one that's on the far right. It's probably the most pigmented out of the palette, I would say, next to the purple, which will be coming up in the next set of six. I also like that kind of rosy lavender color. That's the third one from the left. Here we go, the final six of this palette. You can see that soft, soft yellow just barely shows up. Again, very subtle with the colors, nothing that's going to be overly dramatic. So if you want more eye drama, stay away from these because they are very, very lightly pigmented. But for those that want a more subdued look, these would be absolutely perfect for that subtle pop of color. And there you have them in all of their splendor. But as I was saying, they are very, very subtle. There's nothing completely over the top except maybe a couple of the colors. So if you're more into the vibrant colors like I am most of the time, these palettes may not be for you. If you're looking for some nice transition colors though, you've got a load of possible transition colors with these, especially in the neutral palettes, the traditional and the trendy. I know you've probably been seeing especially these over here and a new one right here. I have been getting devoured by mosquitoes, so it's nothing wrong with my skin. It's just mosquito bites. I've got probably about 9 of them. I am mosquito candy. So nothing to worry about, just bug bites. But anyway, that's all of the swatches. I hope you enjoyed seeing, you know, the subtlety of these palettes. I know a lot of people are into more subdued tones, but at the same time, there's a lot of people that are into more wild and vivid ones like I usually am. But anyway, that concludes this video. If you haven't subscribed already, please hit that button down below. I'd love to have you tune in. And I can't say this enough as well. You guys need to follow me on Instagram. There's a lot of hilarity that goes on there. I'll post occasionally some insightful stuff, but usually it's goofy crap. But anywho, I've got to hop off of here and run to the store here in a few minutes. I forgot to get a couple things earlier, so I'm going to go and pick those up from Walmart, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.